Welcome to Coffee with JD. I'm pleased to have James Martin as the guest for this segment of Coffee with JD. James Martin has worked at late Duncan Peck for many years in his office, while Duncan was the state member for Stretton. James Martin is contesting the seat of Stretton for state parliament in coming by-election. The state seat of Stretton includes suburbs of Callumbailey, Stretton, Drewvale, Kirriby, Runcorn and Sunnybank Hills. James Martin is a long-term local with passion for his community. James lives on the south side with his wife Stella and son Ollie. Growing up in Acacia Ridge, where his parents Bob and Leslie still live today. James has worked closely with Duncan Peck MP since he was first elected to the Parliament, representing the community members and organizations, helping them get the assistance and representation they deserve. Duncan's hard work and commitment to his community is well known in our local area, and James has been there every step of the way, fighting for quality schools, healthcare, better roads, and public transport. With the challenges our community and the Queensland is now facing as the result of COVID-19, James knows that it is more important than ever that we continue the work of Duncan Peck, hence supporting NPL's government and protecting the Queenslanders. Having worked with Duncan side by side since he was first elected in 2019, James understands the needs of our community. James worked as an industrial advocate and union organizer supporting the working people. With a master's degree in governance and public policy from the University of Queensland, James is committed to the advancement of multicultural principles in our local area so that the service delivery and the policy meets the need of our culturally and linguistically diverse communities. In this episode, we'll be talking about some highlights on his electorate and state government's recovery plan amid COVID-19. Welcome to Coffee with JD, James.
We've got people who've come from all around the world to settle in our area, and one of the things that I've found from being out and about campaigning and knocking on doors and speaking to people is that this multicultural community and all the groups who are based here, it really adds a lot of life and character to our part of town, because all of these groups they're all doing very similar things. They're doing their own things, but they're all very similar. They're working hard for their communities, working hard for people in need, and because you've got all these people working hard, helping each other out, it lifts the whole community. Yeah. And you see that in the data as well. So if you look at the census data, JD, what you'll see for Stretton is quite interesting. You'll see we have higher than average education outcomes than the rest of Queensland. So more people in Stretton have higher university degrees and master's degrees. And also you have higher than average household income. So it is very multicultural, and it's a multicultural success story from people from all around the world. And one of the things that I've found that's very interesting when you knock on doors of people who live in Stretton or Callumbailey, and you get talking to people about their kids, which is obviously one of the most favourite topics to talk about, what their kids are up to. Quite a lot of children of their kids have gone on to be doctors, lawyers, engineers, IT professionals, dentists, business owners. So they're doing really well. But one thing I would like to add to that list, JD, is politicians. So I want to try and get some of these kids, if there's any mums and dads out there and their kids are interested in politics, specifically if they've got an idea, maybe they're Labor supporters, they should get in touch, and I'd like to invite them down to the Stretton branch, and maybe we can add a Member of Parliament onto that list one day.
That's wonderful, James. That's really, really good. You've covered very well on the electorate, James. And my next question to you is, James, you are very familiar with this electorate since you have worked with late Duncan Peck, who was the MP for Stretton since 2015. Please, can you highlight some of the major projects that the electorate has benefited from, James?
Well, you're right. I've worked with Duncan Pegg side by side since day one, and I really think we have achieved a lot together. And one of the things I've been talking to people about is very important to me. It's continuing Duncan's legacy, and part of that legacy really is can be seen around the electorate in the achievements that Duncan made. So I would say the two main things. There's lots of things, but the two main things really come down to investment in education. So really record investment in our schools, and the other one is record investment in our roads. Schools obviously are very important because we need our schools to be a good standard, an excellent standard, so our kids can get the best education that they can, so that they can go on to be productive members of society and have great jobs. So if you have a look, I would say probably the biggest one that's happened most recently would be the Performing Arts Centre at Stretton State College. So I was pleased to be there with Duncan Pegg's family. The minister was there as well, and it was named in honour of Duncan Pegg. So the Performing Arts Centre, which was a $30 million investment at Stretton State College, it's a fantastic venue for our local area. It's really a fantastic area and venue, and Duncan's brothers were there to open it. So Duncan couldn't be there himself, but I was pleased to be there with Duncan's brothers to officially open the Duncan Pegg Performing Arts Centre. I think it'll be great to see his name on that building, and it's a fitting tribute for a great friend and for a great MP. In addition to the Performing Arts Centre, we've really seen record funding for all the schools around the area. So that's meant new classrooms, security fences, air conditioning, solar panels, science labs in all of the schools in our local area. Recently, I represented Duncan at the Currabee Special School, and we had a really great project there, which was the state government invested in a thrift shop. So what that means is the kids at the Currabee Special School can learn skills about working in this shop, and this shop, which sells second-hand goods at Currabee Special School. If anyone's interested, they can head along. And the kids who are actually working in there, they'll learn skills working in that shop, and it'll also be open to the public, and you can get coffee there as well, I understand. So it's a great facility, and it really fits in with our philosophy, and it was Duncan's philosophy too, that education is really, really important. And it's something that we're committed to investing in. In terms of roads, we've actually seen massive investment in roads. So Duncan and I were involved in there was record investment in $500 million for additional upgrades to get entrances to the Gateway Motorway and Logan Motorway. So locals would have seen there's new entrances and exits on Compton Road there and Beaudesert Road. And most importantly though, one of the things that Duncan and I worked on were getting some extra additional upgrades included in that project. One of which was the left-hand turn at any time lane from Macquarie Way onto Wembley Road. Now, any of your viewers who live in the southern part of Druvale would know that lane very well, because before then they would be queued up. There was only one lane. Everyone had to line up in.
Yes.
You were turning left or right. Now there's two, so you can
just
turn left at any time. So that was a great inclusion, and that was because we were on the ground and we knew, talking to people, and knew what people were asking for. The other one was the do you remember, JD, the right-hand turn across Beaudesert Road?
Yes.
Onto the Ipswich motorway, where people would have to line up and wait for a gap. And
it was really bad.
It was really bad, and it was great to be able to include in that project a dedicated underpass as part of that project. So I think that's definitely improved safety, and it was great to sort of have that involvement in those major projects. So. In addition to schools and roads, I'd probably just add, really, it's also about continuing how Duncan ran his office, so how he ran his electorate office, and I was there for the whole time. Duncan's philosophy really was always about being a servant of the community, so it wasn't about him, it was about the people. So it wasn't about me, it was about you. That was the philosophy. And that's the philosophy that I want to continue. It's not about seeking accolades for me. It's about how can I serve the community? What does the community need? And working as hard as I can to deliver that.
That's wonderful, James. And mate, you have really put a lot of emphasis on the electorate. And James, my next question to you is the seat of Stretton by-elections are very, very close. So the elections are just next Saturday. And during these difficult times of COVID-19, as you know, we go into lockdowns any moment. And so how does the Palaszczuk government, of course, once you are elected, you'll be part of the government. What are your plans in terms of recovery from this COVID-19, James?
Yep. Well, look, speaking to people, JD, this is obviously on the top of everyone's minds. They talk about it at home, over the dinner table, and especially because Stretton does have people who are from all parts of the world. What you find is, speaking to people, is they've got relatives in countries where things aren't going so well, with community transmissions out of control, or they're relatives in countries who've had not just a 3-day lockdown, but extended lockdowns.
Yes.
So it's really, even though it's this is a global pandemic, it's really felt personally in this local area. And as a result, speaking to people, I would say that Anastasia Palaszczuk has done a great job, and people believe that she's been consistent about putting the safety of Queenslanders first. Some of those calls have had to be tough calls, but she's consistent every time, and she acts in the safety of Queenslanders. And you just have to look at what's going on around the world, and unfortunately in other cities in Australia, to see that we're lucky that Anastasia Palaszczuk is our leader, and she's really always put our safety first. So there's that aspect. The second aspect, though, is the light at the end of the tunnel. So it's really all about economic recovery and creating jobs and ensuring that the Queensland economy continues to recover after everything that we faced last year. So that's about bringing forward funding for all the important state government areas, spending that money in our local community, not just to improve services, JD, although that's very important, but also to ensure that we create those jobs, continue our economic recovery, so that we can keep the economy moving in the right direction. Some examples of that would be the $30 million upgrade to Illawina Street and Bow Desert Road. So that's a major project I think people will be very happy about. I was just down there the other day, sort of having a look at the maps with some of the engineers, and it looks like it's going to be, really good. I'm really looking forward to that one. In addition to that, we've got a $30 million upgrade to the QE2 hospital. So speaking to people, obviously having a first-class health system is very important to me. It was very important to Duncan. So we've got a $30 million upgrade to QE2, and also we've got a $265 million project for satellite hospitals. So what that means is we're going to have new facilities, and they're in the stage of looking for a facility in the vicinity of the QE2 for a satellite hospital. We've got record spending in health. We've never spent as much as we are now on health, and that's because we believe in having a first-class health system, as Duncan did. And I think that's really important too. The other thing, I just add one other thing there, JD, is actually we've put on 2025, the Palaszczuk government's announced 2025 extra police. So that's also about safety and the security of the community, but also about creating jobs. It's about reducing response times and having more police out there on patrol. So that's our plan. I think it's a good one, and it really is all about economic recovery in the future. We're looking to the future, and I want to deliver as part of Anastasia Palaszczuk's team, as part of her team in this local area, as Duncan did, continuing Duncan's legacy as part of Anastasia's team.
That's wonderful, James. And I know that the way Palaszczuk government has so far handled the situation has been really amazing. The way we have gone through COVID-19. Finally, James, I must thank you for coming on the show. And from my viewers and from us all here, we wish you all the best for coming elections, and also look forward for a rewarding results. And James, before you go, can we hear final words of you on this show here?
Yes, well, JD, I wanted to finish off just by saying thank you to yourself for your friendship with Duncan Pegg. I know you guys work closely together, and he held you in very high regard, as I do. But just wanted to pass that on, JD. You were a good friend of Duncan Pegg, You're a community-minded person, and he was always happy to work with you. Every time you were in contact, it was about doing something for the community. It wasn't about you. It was about doing something for someone else. So I hope, if I'm elected on the 24th on Saturday, to continue in that way with you and your community, JD. Thanks.
Thank you so much, James. Thank you, mate. And I highly appreciate for coming on the show. Finally, the viewers, we had a chat with James Martin, and he's a very hardworking person and served under the late Duncan Pegg, who was the member for Stretton. During this interview, James has highlighted his past achievements for the electorate and also explained how he aims to keep providing the service to the electorate. Let us wish James Martin all the best in coming by-elections for the seat of Stretton. To all our viewers, thanks for watching Coffee with JD, and we shall meet next week Friday. Thank you so much and take care.
Subscribe now and press the bell icon. Never miss an update.